The majority of our beloved air-cooled VWs have one thing in common, and that is the fuel tank is higher than the engine. So this could cause a problem. If we have a leak on a pipe between our tank and our carburettor, the tank will end up emptying itself. If we have a sticking float valve within the carburettor, the tank could siphon itself empty. So our next step on fire protection is to fit a fuel cut-off solenoid. Our fuel solenoid kit has more than one advantage. With a hidden switch, it can be used as an anti-theft deterrent. Also, fuel loss prevention when the vehicle's not being used. And we can drain the carburettor down if our vehicle's going into storage for the winter. Let's get a look inside the kit and see what we've got. So in our kit, we've got a set of instructions to show us how to wire up our solenoid. We've got the solenoid itself, a pair of fittings either side, a nice terminal block, the screw that goes through it and a gasket to keep the bad weather out, a pair of Jubilee clips, screws and a lovely mount. So let's take a look and see where we can get this fitted to.
So I think I've found the perfect position for our solenoid and our bracket. This here is the bottom of our fuel tank, so we want to be as close to this as possible with our solenoid, and these two holes here is where I'm going to mount the solenoid. So we're going to have a short pipe coming from our tank to our solenoid, out the other side of our solenoid and then back off into the engine bay. So I've got the bracket fitted to the vehicle. Next thing I'm going to screw our tails into our solenoid. So literally just screw, and they've got a lovely little fuel safe O-ring on the end there. Get him in, nip him up, 14mm spanner. So on the other side, screw the other tail in. Time to head underneath and get this bolted to our bracket. As you can see, there's an arrow on there, so that's direction of flow. So we want to make sure we get that run the right way. This needs to go to the tank and the other side needs to go to the carburettor. Okay, let's head under and get it bolted on. Our solenoid's bolted in position. I would say when you're drilling anything on your VW or any part of the chassis body or anywhere like that and you're putting a nut and bolt through it, it's a good idea to either use wax oil or grease or copper grease just to stop the corrosion around the fresh metal where we've drilled through. I've used copper grease on this and then bolted it up with a 10mm headed nut and bolt so that bracket's nice and tight. So the next issue is our fuel tank. We need to remove this, which is the feed out of the bottom of the fuel tank. We do need to be careful because we do have fuel in here, so we need to drain that first. So that's what we'll do. We're going to drain that and then we can fit our pipe from here to here. So now we have our fuel pipes fitted. So out of our tank to our solenoid, through our solenoid and back round to the original feed to the carburettor. I've also fitted a nice new fuel filter. Again, this has a direction of flow, so all fuel filters have an arrow on them for direction of flow, so make sure you get that around the right way. The pipe we've used is also E10 safe now. So if you haven't converted your vehicle to E10 safe fuel pipe, I would strongly suggest you do that as soon as possible. This is the lovely little terminal block we've got for our solenoid. So all we need is a little tiny screwdriver just to pop it open. And once we've popped it open, we can turn around and we can see there's 3 terminals. Now we only need these 2 here, which are terminals number 1 and 2. And it doesn't matter which orientation we have, the live or the negative, as it's only a solenoid and it'll switch either way. So we're going to wire up those 2, pop it back into here and then get it screwed onto our solenoid. So we're going to make sure we pass our wiring through our wiring gland. So the first thing we're going to do is put the screw cap on. Then we put the gland on. And then we go through the cap. And then once we're through the cap, we can then place into terminal number 1 or 2. So let's strip that back. And like so. And we nip him up. And there we go. That's our feed. So the next one we need to do is our earth. So again, we can pass our earth through and through the gland as well. And through the cap and then wire it up. As you see, I used 2 black wires. It doesn't matter about colour or orientation on this because either way round the solenoid is going to work. So our shorter one is going to be our earth and it's going to go to our bracket on our solenoid, and our longer one is our feed, and we're going to take that from the ignition coil. Now obviously on all VW stuff, ignition live is black, so that's why I've used the black for that. I know really I should have put a brown for the earth, but we didn't have any, but it's going to be very short and go straight to the body, so it's going to be self-explanatory. Okay, let's get this screwed up. So our gland's in there, which is our waterproof part of the gland, and then we just put the screw back in at the back, and that will tighten up around the wiring, like so. I mean, you can put a little dab of silicone in the back as well, just to seal it up, which I think we'll probably do. And that's our gasket that goes between this and our solenoid to keep our terminals dry. Okay, let's get it on.
That's our fuel solenoid in place and the cap put on and the securing screw put through. So as you can see, that's all nice and tight. The wiring goes back up over the top. And that goes to that top nut. We put an earth straight onto that, and then I've run the feed wire through this bit of conduit here, through into the engine bay here, and then we follow that round. There we go. We'll follow that round inside the engine bay across the back. I'll show you where that goes.
Once we're inside the engine bay, I managed to bring the wiring through and follow the original route all the way up and over, through the other side, follow it down to here, and then we take our feed from the coil and we fit a 3 amp fuse there as well. So we want the fuse as closest to the source as possible. Our source is obviously our ignition feed from our coil, so we have that as close as possible. And that's it.
I'm just going to clarify our wiring for our fuel shut-off solenoid. Done a little diagram on our whiteboard, as you can see. So we have our fuel shut-off solenoid here with 2 wires coming from it. One wire we've taken directly to earth, and we bolted ours straight to the bracket to the chassis, good earth. The other wire is our live feed wire, and we've run that round and through into our engine bay. Around, you can go directly to the positive side of the ignition coil via our 3 amp fuse. And that would mean every time you turn the ignition on, that would power up our solenoid and allow fuel to flow. If you would like to add a little bit of security, we can break this wire here, like so. Then add a pair of wires, like so, off to a hidden switch. There's our switch. And you can use that as a little immobiliser. Now I can't tell you where I've put the switch on our van because that's a bit of secret information. Anyway, you can put that switch wherever you like, wherever it's accessible to you, and obviously no one's going to find it. That's it, really simple.